a lot of very dangerous ideas. People don't pay attention to that. It takes Kanye West saying that Hitler was so fresh or that he's a Nazi for the media and for culture to start talking about those dangerous ideas. But there's a whole current of speakers and political figures who more or less espouse similar ideas without saying it so blatantly. And we can't forget about just the rising trend of the woke right aligning with kind of Nazi rhetoric. Welcome back to the Philos Project podcast. I'm your host, Dominique Hoffman, and today I'm going to be reacting to and breaking down Kanye West and his recent anti-Semitic rant on X and what I think it points to culturally, both with Hollywood and with the emerging woke right. So, unless you have been living under a rock, I'm sure you heard of Kanye West and his Superbowl stunt. And even before that, his Grammy stunt. So first I'm going to talk about the Grammys. So at the Grammy red carpet, him and his wife, or he claims it's his wife, Bianca, showed up to the red carpet at the Grammys. He just showed up at the red carpet. He didn't proceed to go into the actual award show. But Bianca arrived wearing a huge black fur coat. He basically turned to her in front of all the paparazzis and the cameras and said, now. She dropped her coat to reveal that she was naked. She was wearing a super thin, kind of like what I'm wearing now, like a little dress, but it was completely see-through. And you couldn't really even call it a dress. It was like an overlay, and you could see everything. I'm not going to even put any images on the screen. I don't want that kind of content on my podcast, and I'm sure everyone has seen it. But what I want to point out is I think this was strategic on the part of Kanye West, because following the attention he got at the Grammys, he then proceeded to lay the groundwork for his Super Bowl stunt. So what happened at the Super Bowl? There was a commercial aired for Yeezy, his clothing line, at the Super Bowl with a link to merchandise. It wasn't aired across all cities in the United States, but in key cities such as like LA. And the link to the website brought you to a page with just one piece of merchandise being sold, which was a shirt with a swastika on it. Now, in the lead up to the Super Bowl, so between the Grammy stunt with his naked wife on the red carpet and the Super Bowl, Kanye proceeded to descend into a anti-Semitic rant on X. And so following the Grammys, he went on to declare himself a Nazi on X. He started posting a series of very inflammatory and derogatory, degrading messages about Jews, specifically Jewish women. According to different reports I've seen, including the Free Press, wrote an article on it, which I will link in the description box down below, stated that he was even showing hardcore pornographic imagery and videos. This was all in regards to Jews and Jewish women, which objectifying women is something that Hollywood has done for decades and decades and decades. He even objectified his own wife at the red carpet, but targeting a specific people group, especially a specific people group who have been mourning since October 7th, the horrific atrocities on Israeli women, is extremely distasteful and psychotic. Who does that? He then went on to tweet, "Hitler was so fresh." And I quote, "Hitler was so fresh." He then also tweeted, and I quote, "Jews were better as slaves. You have to put your Jews in their place and make them into your slaves." That was in all caps. So that was another tweet that he put out. This is very reminiscent of his 2022 mental breakdown and anti-Semitic rant, which in regards to fellow rapper P. Diddy, who is now currently in jail, facing a trial on sex trafficking charges. Kanye claimed he was ruled or controlled by the Jewish cabal, and how somehow the sex trafficking allegations, which were just allegations at the time, I guess they're still allegations. He hasn't had a free and fair trial of his peers, but there's significant proof. Kanye West was making the assertion that abuse, the sex trafficking ring, was part of the Jewish cabal, the degeneracy of Hollywood, which is something that Candace Owens, a major figure of the woke right, has also made those claims. So in 2022, one of the most notorious tweets made by Kanye West was that he vowed to go quote, DEFCON 3 on Jewish people. And then Candace Owens came out and defended him, and that started their odd alliance. And that was really the kind of watershed moment for Candace Owens in her stance on Jews, on implying that there was some Jewish cabal in Hollywood and Big Pharma and DC. And of course, she has since October 7th elaborated on that. She initially was doing her, just asking questions tactic. And then since then, Candace Owens has also kind of descended into peddling extremely dangerous conspiratorial ideas about the Jewish people, including that the Jews use psychology, created by Sigmund Freud, to brainwash people into being pedophiles and into coercing Christians into becoming Jewish. She's made claims that the Jewish state of Israel was created as a safe haven for pedophiles. So similar rhetoric and language to Kanye West making the accusations that P. Diddy was ruled by the Jewish cabal in regards to the sex trafficking allegations and rumors at the time. So we're seeing kind of similar language, which is something I want to point out because there's a huge faction of anti-Semitic thought on the woke right, which parallels significantly with Nazi rhetoric of the interwar years and just historic anti-Semitic tropes, which people don't pay attention to, but it's becoming more and more mainstream, and it's kind of disguised in isolationist foreign policy arguments, or even like Tucker Carlson having pseudo-historians come on his podcast to talk about how Hitler is a misunderstood figure of World War II, and the West actually isn't that good. Like, we're taught that the West is the good actor of World War II, but the West also committed atrocities, and conflating casualties of war, which are horrific, but with the same tragedy as the Holocaust, making the argument that the Holocaust was not a unique evil of World War II. A lot of very dangerous ideas. People don't pay attention to that. It takes Kanye West saying that Hitler was so fresh, or that he's a Nazi, for the media and for culture to start talking about those dangerous ideas. But there's a whole current of speakers and political figures who more or less espouse similar ideas without saying it so blatantly. And we can't forget about just the rising trend of the woke right aligning with kind of Nazi rhetoric. I have one tweet to show you that Kanye made because his Twitter has been scratched. This was another tweet in the lead up to the Super Bowl. If you're not watching and you're just listening, the tweet I have up is in all caps again, and I quote, "I love Hitler, space, now what, BITCH." This is kind of the rhetoric he was using in the lead up to the Super Bowl. Okay, so the shirt I'm going to pull up, this is the shirt. This is a screen grab I got from NBC News because the website has been taken down. Shopify, which is the fulfiller for Yeezy's clothing, broke ties with Kanye West. He was in violation of his e-commerce, agreement. And so similar also to 2022, when Kanye was then terminated his projects with both Gap and Adidas, we're seeing Shopify respond in a very similar way. So again, I'll put the shirt up on the screen. It's just a white shirt for those who are listening with a black swastika in the middle. So the Super Bowl ad, like I said, had a link to the Yeezy website, and the only merch was this shirt. And it went unnoticed until after the Super Bowl. So he pulls this huge stunt, again, capitalizing off of the drama and the buzz from the Grammy red carpet. If you go to his store now, it just says Yeezy stores coming soon. It looks like it's in a child's handwriting, probably his own children. And his Twitter also, if you go to look at his Twitter, there was nothing on his Twitter when I went to record this episode. So we've seen him either take down those tweets, or maybe they were taken down by X. So there's no post. But again, he has a huge following. He has 33.1 million followers on X. He's a huge cultural icon. And as I said, the point I really want to drive home is that it's inflammatory, it's horrific, it's evil, it's disgusting, it's gross. It's so insane that it almost makes me sad for him, the people he has around him. He obviously has some mental health issues. The kind of paranoia of the Jews, the Jewish cabal, is also something we've seen Candace Owens, espouse. Also some questions maybe on mental health there, not making an accusation, just questioning. There are some very similar parallels. And I feel like I always bring up Candace Owens in my podcast and Tucker Carlson. But the reason I want to drive the point home is it shouldn't take Kanye West posting such overtly pro-Nazi endorsements or rhetoric or imagery and selling merch such as this to get the culture and media to respond, because this is a growing cultural belief on the woke right, which has gone largely ignored. I have a lot of friends in DC who work in mainstream politics, and they always tell me, like, you're crazy. You're always talking about these few radical people on the internet, but it's not just a few radical people. That kind of thought, that suspicion of the Jews, the accusation that the establishment is equivalent to a Jewish cabal, the elite are Jews running Hollywood, healthcare, DC politics, is becoming more and more common. Like, I have friends who are MAGA and we share many similar opinions, and then they just go a step too far, right? Like, we can all question government corruption. I think it's very apparent, especially with what Doge is doing, that government corruption is unfortunately just a part of the human experience. That's not unique to the United States or to the 21st century. If you look at just governance through nation state, empire, divine right monarchs, corruption runs rampant because we are sinful, flawed human beings. And questioning the quote unquote establishment, which obviously there are elites, has now become synonymous with the idea that elites are run by Jews, Jewish cabal. And that's dangerous. So again, I just want to point out that it shouldn't take Kanye West saying such blatantly pro-Nazi things for the culture to respond. Something I also want to talk about is Hollywood, right? So I thought that the video I'm about to show you was real. So there was a video with Scarlett Johansson and a bunch of other Jewish actors and actresses, celebrities, Natalie Portman, Adam Levine, wearing a shirt with basically a middle finger and a Star of David in the middle with Kanye under it. And it was black and white. I thought, oh my gosh, it's a Hollywood campaign. Hollywood has done some campaigns in the past. I was like, oh my gosh, this is awesome. Hollywood's speaking out against it. Found out it was AI. So the initial topic of this video is going to be about how Hollywood talks about anti-Semitic rhetoric in America, but is largely silent about what happened on October 7th. And then I found out it was AI. So I'll play the video in case you haven't seen it, and then I'll kind of conclude with my thoughts.
Jewish celebrities wearing a t-shirt that shows a raised middle finger with a Star of David inside it above the word Kanye, referring to the rapper Kanye West. As we hear, the Jewish folks on Hava Nagila playing on the background. At the end of this video, the celebrities fade out as this text appears, saying enough is enough, join the fight against anti-Semitism. And as we saw, the video appears to show Scarlett Johansson, Jerry Seinfeld, Steven Spielberg, even Sam Altman, amongst many other prominent American Jews. As this user claims, Jewish celebrities have a message for Kanye West.
Okay, so it was AI generated, which made me so disappointed. And then I think it also brings up questions about AI and the dangers of AI. Scarlett Johansson came out. She was super upset about it. She's already in like a legal battle because her voice was used in AI by someone else in Hollywood. I don't have the details on it, but she's been an outspoken advocate against AI and the dangers that it kind of holds. So I think there's a whole question there. There's also a question surrounding, free speech and then anti-Semitism. So there's a lot of cultural questions. The one thing I did want to point out is that Hollywood has been largely silent with anti-Semitism rising here in the United States. Even Jewish celebrities. There are a few Jewish celebrities, maybe some B-listers, C-listers who have really used their platform, and I think that's incredible. But it's very rare to see an A-list celebrity using their platform to talk about anti-Semitism in the United States, what happened across college campuses following October 7th, and then again what happened to Israeli Americans on October 7th, the horrific atrocities, or even using their platform to talk about the hostages. We saw some really horrific images of the last hostages who were released who were emaciated, and they looked honestly very similar to images we saw of the Holocaust and the malnutrition and just like the crime against humanity, the horrific conditions. So few, if any, A-list celebrities have used their platforms to advocate for the Jewish people, but they do use their platforms to talk about BLM, DEI. Another point I wanted to make, harkening back to the Grammys and Kanye West's stunt, was that the Grammys were largely used as a platform to speak out against President Donald Trump and his, first few weeks in the second term, basically reversing a lot of DEI programs. I believe Lady Gaga got on stage and talked about how we need trans visibility, and Billie Eilish, and every celebrity used the recent Grammys as like a political platform to talk about DEI, and a bunch of other neo-Marxist, postmodern, ideas about we're all equal in society, down with the meritocracy. It's all about diversity, equity, and inclusion. They all use their voices for that, which has largely harmed the West and our civilization. But no one talked about the hostages. And there was the past Grammys where I know Billie Eilish was wearing the red palm pin, which was, in solidarity with the Palestinians. So if they do use their platform to talk about this war, it's mostly in response to being pro-Palestinian, anti-Israel, anti this war. And so I do want to clarify, there are many B and C-list celebrities who have talked about it, especially Jewish celebrities. But I'm talking about A-list celebrities, people who have huge platforms, such as Scarlett Johansson. And I think that is something sad, but it points to the culture of just anti-Israel beliefs. And ultimately, the silence of Hollywood kind of points to how being pro-Israel in our culture just is not popular. And they're more interested in maintaining their popularity, their status as A-list celebrities, than speaking to truth and culture and what makes the West and our civilization so great. So with that, I will leave you guys, and I will see you in the next episode. Have a good one.